When she looks at you, do you actually know what she sees? You probably think she sees your face, the man standing in front of her, your eyes, your shoulders, the expression you happen to be wearing in that moment. But what she actually sees is something completely different, something no man is ever taught to understand. And it isn't just one thing. It's 7 layers of you that she's reading all at once, every single time her eyes meet yours. Most men have no idea this is happening, which means most men are also missing the deepest truth about why she stays. Before we go further, I want to be clear about something. None of this is about you being wrong or not enough. The fact that you're here, watching this, wanting to understand her better, that already tells me something most men don't have. So drop any defensiveness right now. This is going to land differently than you expect. By the time we reach the 7th layer, you're going to understand something about how she sees you that you cannot see in yourself. Something most men live their entire lives without ever knowing. Stay until the end. That one changes everything. Let's start with what her eyes are actually doing the moment she looks at you. 1. Her brain is reading you faster than her eyes can see you. There is a part of the human brain called the amygdala. It processes safety and threat. And in romantic partners, particularly in women whose evolutionary biology was shaped around constant assessment of emotional and physical safety, the amygdala does something extraordinary. It evaluates the person in front of her in about 200 milliseconds, a fifth of a second, faster than conscious thought. Stephen Porges, the neuroscientist behind polyvagal theory, spent decades studying what he calls neuroception, the body's silent reading of safety in another human being. And the research is clear. Before she registers your face, she's reading your breathing, the micro-tension in your shoulders, the pace of your movements, the way you're holding your jaw without realizing it. She isn't doing this on purpose. Her body is doing it automatically, the way yours automatically reads a room when you walk in. But here's where it matters. The micro signals her body's picking up are not the ones you think you're sending. You can be saying loving words and her nervous system can be reading tension. You can be smiling and her body can be reading distance. You can be making eye contact and her amygdala can be quietly flagging. Something is off. This is why she sometimes asks, "Are you okay?" when you genuinely think you're fine. She isn't paranoid. She isn't reading too much into things. She's reading data you didn't know you were giving her. Stan Tatkin, who studies couples through the lens of attachment neuroscience, puts it like this. In any committed relationship, you become each other's primary regulator. Her body is constantly using yours as a reference point for whether the world is safe right now. And yours is doing the same with hers, which means the man she sees isn't just a man. He's an environmental signal. He's weather. She sees your face second. She sees your nervous system first. And that means the most important thing about how she sees you was never something you could fix by trying to look better. It was about something underneath the surface that you didn't even know was visible. 2. She isn't seeing the man in front of her. She's seeing every version of you she's ever known. The longer two people are together, the less they perceive each other as a static image, and the more they perceive each other as an accumulated story. When she looks at you, her brain is doing something almost impossible to describe. It's overlaying the man standing in front of her with every version of you she's ever experienced. The man she fell for, the man who showed up the first time she was really sick, the man who said something cruel during the one fight she's never quite forgotten, the man who held her hand at the hospital, the man who scrolled through his phone during a moment that mattered to her. All of it at the same time. This is why a single look from her can carry so much weight. She isn't just reacting to right now. She's reacting to a composite portrait she's been painting since the day you met. And this is also why the same action from you, the same words, the same tone, can land completely differently in different seasons of your relationship. You haven't changed in that moment, but the version of you she's reading through has changed because she's added new chapters to the book. Here's the part that changes everything. The way she sees you in any given moment is being shaped most heavily by the man you've most recently been to her. Not the man you used to be, not the man you intend to become, the man whose behavior is freshest in her memory. This is what John Gottman found in his decades of research at his couples lab. The single strongest predictor of a relationship's trajectory wasn't grand gestures. It wasn't even avoiding conflict. It was something he called positive sentiment override. A state where small daily interactions had built up enough positive weight that even the bad moments got read through a generous lens. And its opposite, negative sentiment override, is when the weight has tilted the other way. When even neutral things start reading as negative. When the same comment that used to land as a joke now lands as an attack. You are not being judged by the man you were last year. You are being seen through the man you've been the past 2 weeks. That's both the brutal part and the freeing part, because it means how she sees you is something being actively rewritten by you every single day. 3. She sees what you're hiding even when you're hiding it well. You come home from work. The day was bad. Something went wrong. You decide in that moment not to bring it home. You walk through the door, kiss her, ask about her day. You're choosing to be steady. You think you're doing the right thing, and in many ways you are. But here's what she sees. She sees the half-second pause before you smile. The way your eyes don't quite settle on hers the way they usually do. The tightness in your jaw that you don't feel because you've been carrying it for hours. She sees the effort. Brené Brown, who has spent years studying vulnerability in long-term relationships, found something that surprises most men when they hear it. Women in committed partnerships consistently report feeling less close to their partners, not when their partners are struggling, but when their partners are pretending not to be. This makes sense neurologically. Her nervous system has been reading yours all evening. Her body knows something is off. When you tell her, even silently through your composure, that everything is fine, what her body hears is, "There's something happening I can't see, and I can't access him right now." She doesn't feel protected by your composure. She feels locked out by it. This is one of the deepest misunderstandings in long-term partnerships. Men are often taught, culturally, sometimes by women themselves, that strength means containment, that a good partner doesn't dump his stress on her, that the most loving thing is to hold it together. And there's truth in that. But there's a version of containment that becomes a wall, and she can feel the wall every time. What she's actually asking for isn't that you fall apart on her doorstep. It's something much smaller. A single sentence. "I had a rough day. I'll be okay. I just need a minute." That's it. That sentence does something her body has been waiting for. It says, "The part of you that knows me also knows what's happening with you. We're still on the same team. The wall just came down." The men who learn this stop being read as distant because she stops having to guess at what she can already feel. 4. She watches how you treat the people who can't do anything for you, and she's filing every single moment. There's an old line in dating advice. Watch how he treats the waiter. Most men hear that and think it's a cliche, but the research on relationship satisfaction tells us it's one of the most accurate predictors in the entire field. Here's why. When you're with her, when you know she's watching, your behavior is performed. It's filtered through the awareness that this matters. But when you're with someone you have no reason to impress, a server, a stranger asking for directions, a kid in a parking lot, a dog you've never met, that's when she sees the unfiltered version of you. The you with no audience. The you that exists when there's nothing to gain. Esther Perel has talked about this in her work with couples for over 30 years. The way you treat what you don't have to treat well, she says, is the truest version of you available to her. And she's watching it, always. This isn't a test you can pass by being aware of it, by the way. Because the moment you start performing kindness with a waiter for her benefit, she can read that too. She can tell the difference between gentleness that exists because that's who you are, and gentleness that exists because she's looking, which leads to something both humbling and motivating. The way she sees you is being built constantly by interactions you weren't even thinking about. The patience you showed when nobody was watching, the way you spoke to your mother on the phone, how you reacted when the cashier was slow, the kindness you showed to your own past self, whether you talk to yourself with contempt or with care. She's watching all of it, not because she's keeping score, because that's the data she has. And whether you like it or not, that data is forming the truest version of you that exists in her mind. So if you ever wonder how she sees you, stop trying to perform better when she's in the room. Start being kinder when she's not. 5. She isn't choosing the man you are. She's choosing the man you're becoming. This is the one that makes most men uncomfortable when they really sit with it. But it might be the most important thing in this entire video. When a woman commits to a man for the long term, she isn't taking a snapshot. She's making a projection. Her brain, and this is well documented in attachment research going back to Bowlby and Ainsworth's original work, is constantly running a forward simulation. Where is this man heading? What will he be like in 5 years? 10? Will the person standing next to me grow with me? Or will he stand still while I move? This isn't cold calculation. It's love operating at its deepest level. Because the woman who loves you isn't just loving who you are today. She's loving the future you that she's helping to build by staying. And this means something hard. She can love you fully right now and still watch you carefully for signs of who you're becoming. Are you getting more curious or more closed? More patient or more reactive? More willing to grow or more committed to being right? These are the questions her nervous system is quietly asking every season of your relationship, whether she realizes she's asking them or not. There's a phrase Sue Johnson uses in her work with couples: trajectory trust. The felt sense that the person you love is moving toward becoming a better version of themselves, even slowly, even imperfectly. And here's what her research shows. Trajectory trust is one of the single strongest predictors of long-term relationship satisfaction. More than money, more than chemistry, more than how often you fight. What she sees when she looks at you, in other words, is not just a man, it's a direction. And here's the relief in that. You don't have to be where you want to be. You just have to be visibly heading there. The man who is slowly, quietly becoming someone better is, to her, more attractive than the man who already arrived. Because the becoming is what she gets to be part of. The becoming is the love. 6. The hardest one to hear. She sees the way you see her. When her eyes meet yours, she's not just observing your face. She's reading your face for one specific piece of information. How am I right now in his eyes? This isn't insecurity. This isn't her needing constant reassurance. This is a fundamental feature of human attachment. From the moment we are born, we look into the faces of the people who love us, and we use those faces as a mirror. We learn who we are through how we are seen. In infants, this is the foundation of what attachment researchers call the still face response. When a caregiver's face goes blank, the baby becomes distressed almost immediately because the loss of being reflected back is the loss of self-perception. Edward Tronick's work on this is one of the most famous experiments in developmental psychology. And here's what most men don't realize. That circuitry doesn't go away in adulthood. It just gets quieter. Your partner is still using your face, your eyes, your micro-expressions, the way your gaze softens or sharpens, as one of her primary mirrors for who she is to you in this moment. When you look at her with the same wonder you had in the beginning, even for a fraction of a second, her body knows. When you look at her with subtle impatience, even when you don't realize you are, her body knows. When your gaze has gone flat, present but not really there, she feels something move out of her chest that's harder to name than anything else. This is why one of the deepest gifts you can give her is the conscious effort to look at her like she's still being seen. Not constantly, not performatively, but sometimes across a room in the middle of a normal Tuesday when she's doing something completely unremarkable. Let your face do what it used to do without effort. Let it soften. Let her catch you looking. What she sees in that moment is not just affection. It's a piece of herself returning. The version of her that exists in your eyes. The one she didn't realize she's been quietly missing. 7. And this is the one I promised you at the beginning. There is something she sees in you that you cannot see in yourself. And once you understand what it is, the entire way you exist in your relationship begins to shift. Here's what it is. She sees who you are to her, not who you are to the world, not who you are at work, not who you are to your friends, who you are specifically, irreplaceably to her. You can't see this from the inside. You can only see yourself through the data you have, your own thoughts, your own self-criticism, the version of you that lives in your own head, which is often the harshest one, but the version of you that exists in her, the man you've become through hundreds of small accumulated moments with her, the safety you've built, the laughter you've made possible, the way the room shifts when you walk into it after a long day. That version of you only exists in her. This is what Stan Tatkin calls the secure functioning relationship at its deepest level. The two of you are co-creating a version of each other that doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe. And the most extraordinary thing about it is this. That version is real. It's not a fantasy. It's not idealization. It's the cumulative truth of who you've been to her. more accurately than any other person on earth could see. She isn't lying when she tells you she sees something in you that you don't see in yourself. She isn't being romantic. She's reporting back from a vantage point you don't have. She's standing in the only place in the world where that version of you is visible. So when you find yourself thinking, as most men do sometimes, what does she even see in me? Why me? Why am I enough for her? Understand that the question is unanswerable from where you're standing. You're trying to see something that's only visible from her side. But trust the data. She's been collecting it for years. She knows things about you that you've forgotten or never noticed. She's been holding a version of you that she has every reason to trust. And the fact that she's still here, still looking at you, still letting her eyes meet yours across the kitchen, that's not a small thing. That's the closest you'll ever come to seeing yourself the way she does. So tonight, the next time she looks at you across the room, in that quiet, ordinary moment when neither of you is saying anything, when the lights are low and the day is winding down and she happens to glance up at you for no particular reason at all, pay attention to what's happening. She isn't seeing your face. She's seeing the man whose breathing she's memorized, the man whose silences she's learned to read, the man she's watched be kind to a stranger when nobody was watching, the man she's seen become slowly, quietly, more himself over the years she's known him, the man whose eyes she still uses as a mirror. She's seeing 7 layers of you all at once, all in the time it takes to blink. And in that look, she's making the same choice she makes every day, the one no algorithm and no philosopher and no relationship expert can fully explain. This one, still this one, always this one, that's what she sees.